The beginning of the Qur'an is talking about, like you said before, in Surah Al-Baqarah and stuff, it's talking about stories, it's talking about what happened with the people of Israel, it's talking about what happened with the Christians, it's giving rulings, so it's more like a relaxed, but it's a longer rhyme, By the end of the Qur'an, now it's talking about heaven, now it's talking about hell, it's talking about the Day of Judgment, so it's all like urgent. So it's the rhyme, and there's actually, you can measure this. So there's a guy called Raymond Farrin, who wrote, he was a non-Muslim, I think, and then he became a Muslim, because he says that the structure of the Qur'an, we were talking about symmetry, is so symmetrical, it's so proportionate, that it couldn't have been derived from a human being.
Yeah, the numbers, day mentioned 365 times, month 12.
So there's a lot of them which are, what you're saying is true, a lot of them people exaggerate, but some of it is true. So for example, I have done about these counts myself, some of them, you're right. Like I'll give you an interesting example, Like Allah says in the Qur'an, in chapter 3 verse 59.
Someone pull up a chair for closer, please?
Just sit right here.
In chapter 3 verse 59, Allah says that إِنَّ مَثَلَ عِيسَى عِنْدَ اللَّهِ كَمَثَلِ آدَمَ خَلَقَهُ مِنْ تُرَابٍ ثُمَّ قَالَ لَهُ كُنْ فَيَكُونُ. That Jesus is like Adam, that Allah created him from dust and he said be and he was. Basically, Allah is responding to Christians who say that Jesus is the son of God because he had no biological father, So Allah is responding and saying, well, Adam had no mother or father. So if that makes him the begotten son of God, then it should make Adam the begotten son of God as well, because he didn't have a maternal mother or a maternal father. So there's a refutation. But here's the thing. So the Qur'an says that if you count the amount of times in the Qur'an the word Adam is mentioned, it's 25 times. And if you count the amount of times the word Jesus is mentioned, it's 25 times.
Wow.
And the ayah is saying that Jesus is like Adam. So he's trying to show that so the number of mentions is in line with the meaning that it's trying to portray.
And
Do you see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, and there's another one too, like forgiveness is mentioned exactly twice as many times as punishment. Like, how could that
nobody can, like, as you're speaking, you can't count this stuff. Like, because remember, the Qur'an came down as like a responsive revelation.
Yeah, it wasn't like the Prophet, peace be upon him, was like sitting there with a feather and thinking like, what should I write down?
Because the thing is, a lot of it is a response to things that happen. So like there was a war, so verses came down about the war. There's a marriage, verses came down about marriage. So it's all like responsive revelation. It can't be premeditated.
Yeah, just fucking make space. They're saying not when there's a Quran on the table. I don't know. It's not Quran. Keep it zoomed out.
So it couldn't have been premeditated. So the symmetry of the Quran, like for example, there's a very interesting. It's on so many different levels that wallahi, that for me is the greatest evidence of Islam being true. But the problem why I don't use this evidence a lot when I'm doing like debates and stuff is because it's a bit long-winded and I can't express this.
Wait, which piece of evidence?
So the evidence is, and now with AI, I think you can essentially prove this. The structural and linguistic aspects of the Quran, it couldn't have been from a human being. Why? Because the way the Quran is laid out, with the mentions of certain words, certain times, certain amount of times, with the syllables in a certain way, with the rhyme in a certain way, it couldn't have been mapped out because the Quran is a responsive revelation. So in other words, let me give you an example. Someone would come to the Prophet and ask him about, like for example, Dhul Qarnayn, an individual called Dhul Qarnayn. So it says, yes, Alunaka an Dhul Qarnayn. They ask you about Dhul Qarnayn. Say this. They ask you about this, say this. They ask you about a ruh.
Yeah, like it's God talking to the Prophet. But
it all depended on what. People came to the Prophet and asked him a question, and the Quran is responding to people, right?
Right then and there.
Yeah, right then and there. There was no editorial process, it just happened.
And that would always be the angel Gabriel every single time?
Exactly. Now here's the thing. Like, I'll give you an example. This is a simple example. It's been used many times, but I'll use it again. Surah Al-Baqarah is the biggest chapter in the Quran. It's got 286 verses, In the Surah Al-Baqarah wasn't revealed in one go. It was revealed over 2.5 years, Now, in the middle of Surah Al-Baqarah, it says, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. We have made you a middle nation. That's mentioned in
the very middle
of the middle of it.
And it wasn't like you said, it wasn't revealed one time. Imagine you got a screen, pixels are coming here and there, pixel, and then it becomes a picture. How is that possible?
Premeditated, but I'm telling you, wallahi, when you understand this point, this is the strongest evidence for Islam being true. If people understand and deep this point, it takes a bit of mental work, but this is the strongest evidence, bigger than the prophecies, bigger than everything. Because this one shows you the Quran is like a pearl necklace. Each pearl is being added to a string, and when you add the string together, it creates a pearl necklace, right?
Pattern.
But it's like he said, patterns, bro. The patterns could not have been predicted.
Even the word,
could not have been predicted.
Even the word orbit. The word orbit, when you divide those letters, like they're like
it's like orbiting,
like mirror. No, it's like a mirror. It's like a mirror. Like each word. Yes, palindrome. Like bro. You can read it either way. And not only that, even when it talks about Joseph, you saw this in the Quran, and Allah says towards the end of the verse, and to the Prophet, and you could have not known about this information. Because this is way before, this is Joseph, bro. This is way before Moses. So there's information in the story. You know the story of Moses and when he went to the well, his brothers betrayed him. You know when you break that story down, no man can't. Bro, the story, brother, mind blown. I'll send you a video. Mind blown. The way he mirrors it, no man can't. No man can't.
He does like things very clear English.
Bro, it's impossible to be from a man. Impossible. N-O-U-M-A-N.
Ali.
No man can't. He's got this thing where you. It's called.
He's really good.
It's called Bayina. It's called Bayina. If you sign up to, if you want to increase your knowledge for the Quran, bro.
He's got lots of things on free online, like where he's going through the chapter.
Yeah, bro.
Going through, like, wallahi, it's the best.
Yeah, go through Joseph, Surah Yusuf. But mind blown.
Is like symmetrical, but
mind blown.
Do you know what else though? Like, let me give you a practical example. There's 114 chapters of Quran. 114. We used to do this when we used
Yeah, in the universities, remember?
Yeah, all right. So
Yeah.
give me
I'll give you. I'll
give me
back.
two numbers that are next to each other from 1 to 114.
Yeah.
72, 43.
No, not next to each
Oh,
other.
I'm sorry.
72 and 73.
72, 73, yeah.
All right, so 72 is chapter Jinn. Yeah, it's called Surah al-Jinn.
Yeah.
Chapter 73 is Surah al-Muzammil. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, these two surahs here, chapter Jinn, قُلْ أُوحِيَ إِلَيَّ أَنَّهُ اسْتَمَعَ نَفَرٌ مِنَ الْجِنِّ, this one, and Surah al-Muzammil, if you look at the beginning and the end of each surah, the beginning and the end of each chapter, it links.
Yeah.
So, for example, every chapter of the Quran, the beginning lexically and structurally links with the end of that chapter. So in the beginning of Surah al-Jinn, Allah mentions that there were a group of jinns, a group of, like you want to call them jinnis or demons, or you know what jinns are, yeah?
Of course.
That they were listening to the Quran, there's good jinn, there's bad jinn, yeah? Near the end, you have the same exact theme, okay? There's good jinn, there's bad jinn, there's jinns listen to the Quran, etc. Now, imagine, jinn listen to the Quran, good jinn, bad jinn. Go to Surah al-Muzammil. Ya ayyuha al-Muzammil is talking to the Prophet, and it was one of the first things that were ever revealed, yeah? And that is talking about the Prophet ﷺ receiving revelation, which is the Quran, and it's talking about the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ reciting the Quran. So in the beginning of Surah al-Jinn and the end of Surah al-Jinn, there's recitation by the Jinn of the Quran. In the beginning and the end of chapter 73, there's the recitation of the Prophet Muhammad and the Muslims of the Quran. So you see, the theme just continues going on. You might think, okay, well, this is a bit of a coincidence, but this continues throughout the whole Quran.
Can I give an analogy for the viewers? It's like a Pink Floyd album where it's like every single, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but at the end of every song, it then connects into
it's
the
a
next
cyclical
song.
structure. Yeah, exactly. Every surah has a cyclical structure. Every single surah. But you know what? Someone would say this is very subjective. It's not. You know, it's actually measurable. You know why? But it's not just the themes in the beginning and the end of each chapter that connect.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that the chapter was not revealed in one go, for the most part, a lot of the big chapters especially were not revealed in one go. It's also the letters. The letters. So, like, for example, you know how, like, you have some words that are, there's more consonants than there are vowels. Some words have more vowels than are consonants, yeah?
Out on the left.
So the beginning and end of each chapter has letters that are similar to each other. And then one chapter with the next has themes that are similar to each other. And those two chapters that are coupled with each other usually have themes in opposition to each other. So, for example, in chapter 55, chapter 56, chapter 55 is Surah Al-Rahman. We were just about to recite it, but I don't want to. It talks about the people of heaven and the people of hell. But it emphasizes the people of hell more. And then in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, which is the next surah, it's the same thing, but it's in reverse, exactly reverse sequence. Now with AI, one of the things I want to do for Sapiens, we want to show, we're using actual analysis, essentially how symmetrical the Quran is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just symmetrical, but with theme, with lexical items, with words and letters, but it's symmetrical in rhyme. So, like, I'll give you an example, yeah? Where Allah says in the Quran, yeah? He says, وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ. It's a small surah at the end of the Quran. وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ الَّذِي جَمَعَ مَالًا وَعَدَّدَهُ. Now, if you look at the amount of syllables in that chapter 104 of the Quran, you'll find that there's 11 syllables. And if you split the surah into two, you've got 5 and 6. The syllables, from a auditory perspective, are exactly symmetrical. Now, once again, the themes are symmetrical, the syllables are symmetrical, the rhyme is symmetrical. When you delve into this, bro, wallahi, it's actually mind-blowing. This is one of the strongest arguments for Islam. But it's taking me like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, I get it.
That's
why I don't in the debate, I have to go quick in it. So in the debate, I'll just say prophecies, this and that.
Yeah,
history, the Quran's history, because I can bullet point it quickly. But if I wanted, if someone had more time for me to explain it to them, I'll say this is the strongest thing. The language of the Quran, the symmetry of the Quran, the structure of the Quran, bro. And there's lots of it, bro. There's non-Muslims writing about it. There's a guy called Michel Cuypers, yeah? He found this out. He's a non-Muslim. He found this out about the Quran, yeah? He said, oh, do you know what? It seems to be that the Quran has a cyclical structure. Bro, he wrote a whole book about it, peer-reviewed.
Do you accept Islam?
I don't think so. This guy.
How do you not accept
Islam? I don't know. So he did. So some of them do.
That's what kufr is.
So Raymond Farrin,
to know
the structure of the Quran, he accepted Islam. He said this: every chapter of the Quran is so interconnected in a structural way that it couldn't have been. He's essentially saying it could not have been from a human being, because it would require knowledge of the future. You'd need to predict what's going to happen to you.
What comes before the surah, the night of Al-Qadr, about the night of Tower?
So that's chapter 97, right?
Yeah.
Surah Al-Qadr is chapter 97. Before it, it's Iqra, which is chapter 96, yeah?
Read.
Yeah, so read is the name of your Lord. So chapter 96 is talking about when the Prophet first received revelation.
Yeah.
Was that the first verse revealed?
Yeah. Iqra was the first verse revealed. Chapter 96
It was revealed out of order.
Yeah, so chapter 96 was the first verse of the Quran that was...
Bro, it's not in order.
Al-Qadr feels like a final... It has some finality to it.
I get what you mean, but it's actually not. That's one of the early verses. Yeah? So chapter 96, 1-4, is as an example, yeah, it's saying that, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, reciting the name of your Lord who created the human being from a clot, reciting the name of your Lord who taught the human being with a pen, yeah? But so it's saying, read and recite, it's talking about the modality of revelation. The next chapter is talking about the circumstance of revelation, which is Laylatul Qadr.
Wow.
So you have the how in 96, and you have the when, which is Laylatul Qadr, it happened with the night of decree, in 97.
And then what's after that?
What's the reason? What's the why?
The why, so in chapter 98 it says it's Surah Al-Bayyinah. And Surah Al-Bayyinah is a surah which talks about لم يكن الذين كفروا من أهل الكتاب والمشركين منفكين حتى تأتيهم البينة, that the Prophet himself, he sorted out a disagreement between the other religions, essentially. That, to go to the why was the Prophet revealed? To sort out the mess that was the corrupted theology of the people that came before.
Yeah.
Because there was a khilaf, there was a dispute and discord and disagreement between those people. So he came to sort that out. So the point is like, you see, the themes just keep going to like one chapter after the next.
So that crazy. Was surah that I showed you in the last year earlier.
Are you picking up on this? Like, you kind of get what he's saying? Of like,
sorry, I wasn't thinking.
no, sorry, I'm just wondering.
Yes, but that's why I
He's
said
busy about the
these ones are hard to.
I don't know what kind of show he's got.
It's hard to conceptualize too. If you
Fantastic
can't
cameraman.
even wrap your head around that, it's not the Prophet peace be on him that wrote it.
Yeah,
No,
this is hard to get through to people.
Bro, linguists say they looked at the structure of the Qur'an and the Hadith. They say it's two different. It's not. There's two different people.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not the
yeah.
same.
You can tell.
So well, they go. So when people come and say that Prophet Muhammad,
It's like when you look at like handwriting.
Yes.
You can tell whose handwriting it is.
Exactly.
You can also look at who's
Exactly.
the structure. You can
But
see
I'm sorry,
text.
but
And
there's
you're like, this seems
wallahi,
like it's
when
from
you become more
my mom,
like-
from this person, that person.
When you're connected with the Quran,
Yeah.
Wallahi, this is not just like me saying.
Yeah,
this,
it's
like,
true.
when you start thinking about it,
Yes.
you know, for me, I said there's no way
Impossible.
Prophet Muhammad
Yes.
could have brought this.
Impossible,
Because
brother.
the thing is, okay, I've been spending like the last 15 years studying philosophy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bro, the stuff in the Quran, there's too many diverse
Yeah,
fields.
yeah.
Bro, look, he's talking about history. He's talking about the future.
Yeah.
He's talking about human psychology,
Politics.
the human condition,
Politics.
the earth,
sea levels.
bro,
Sea levels.
even like scientific phenomena.
Yeah.
Like there's things that you can see in the Quran is careful not to fall into something that we would consider to be completely impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which the Bible does not do, bro.
Yes.
Now, let me give you one example. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm going to be open with this. The truth is, in Islamic history, there have been two positions. One of them is that the earth is flat, and the other one is that the earth is round. Both of those exegetes got that information from the Quranic verse. So some of them interpreted some verses as meaning the earth is round, like in Taymiyyah and like in the Hazm and like al-Ghazali.
Like stretched out. I think you just read that
in
one.
chapter 39, verse 5, that you code Layla and Nahar and code Nahar and Layla, that is Allah, He rolled the day into the night and rolled the night into the day. And there's some other verses which indicates like Allah smoothing the earth and stuff like that. So some people interpreted that as a flat earth. There's been two opinions, yeah? However, in Christian history, in Jewish history, bro, there's only ever been one way of interpreting the Bible, which is that the earth is flat.
Yeah.
There is not one verse in the Bible which indicates in any way
Yeah.
the rotundity of the earth.
Yeah.
So that's why there's a guy called John Walton, yeah? He said that the closest verse you're going to find is a verse in the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 22, where it says the circle of the earth. But the circle of the earth doesn't
flat.
yeah, it's flat.
Yeah.
It doesn't say anything about the rotundity of it, the
No, it
roundness of
doesn't.
the earth.
What a way to say round.
What is that?
Rotundity.
Where do you find these words?
I don't know.
I don't know.
What did you say today?
I don't know
You're
what's-
delicious. What did you today? You said you're delicious. What was it?
We're
Today,
not truth.
no, not me. No, you. What you said? But yeah, it's got so many words.
But you know what I'm saying? So the fact is, even with naturalistic phenomena, there's scope. That's why there's always, you're going to find, is with observable reality, an exegete somewhere that says something that corresponds to our scientific understanding today. Even though it was before the scientific discovery.
Like science is catching up with the Quran.
Well, I'm not putting it that way. I'm saying that the way the Quran speaks is in a way where you'll find an interpretation somewhere in history which corresponds with an observable scientific fact.
Sorry,
Do you know what I mean? Like, for example, I gave the example of the earth, yeah? So there's an interpretation by a lot of Islamic scholars of the Quran that the earth is round.
Yeah.
There is nothing in the Bible like that. So there's only one interpretation of
Yeah, I
the
get what
Bible,
you're
which is that the earth is flat. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So, to be fair, because someone could say, oh, this scholar here said
And
the
who
earth is
knows,
flat.
like maybe the evidence comes out in the future for which one is right. We don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But the Quran gives, like, it doesn't say something which is impossible. It never says that. It never says makes it impossible. It makes a claim that's scientifically. When I say scientifically, like the cutthroat, like definitive, observable reality. It never goes against that.
Yeah.
Oh, it can go against theories.
Yeah.
It can go against theories. But when it's like completely observable reality, like something that we can.
And for example, you know when he said the arsh, the arsh of the the ring of the arsh of the Prophet Muhammad peace be upon him, the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the arsh, it's like a ring formed in a desert. Now, bro, now we're just discovering about the vast of the universe. There are 200 billion galaxies that have 200 million or 200 billion suns in it. Yeah, you would have never think that. You know when the Prophet says, and the Prophet saw angel Gabriel in the horizon, huge. You would think, come on, man, how could an angel be that big? Now you see how vast our universe is. You're like, brother, you know, it's like when the Prophet mentions his arsh is like a ring formed in the desert. Now it's like, yo, how does he have that knowledge? And you know, one other thing, it's very interesting what the Prophet said. He says something very, like, for example, his Sneako ibn Malik. Yeah? So he was a bounty hunter. The Prophet and Abu Bakr are on the run. The Quraysh are trying to hunt them down. Okay. So Sneako ibn Malik was a bounty hunter. So they said to him, listen, if you catch him 100 red camels are like Ferraris. He's on their case. He's chasing them. And then he sees them from a distance. Okay. His horse refuses to go. So his horse is he's trying to go.
The Prophet's horse.
No, the Abu Bakr and the Prophet Muhammad, they're on the run.
Okay.
The Quraysh are after him. Sneako ibn Malik he became a Muslim, but he was a bounty hunter. So the Quraysh said to him, listen, you know the place, you know the terrain, find them, and we'll give you 100 red camels. So he's like, listen, I'm going to catch these lot. As he's trying to, he sees the Prophet Muhammad and Abu Bakr in the distance, but his horse refuses to go further. So he's like, bro, this is strange. So he's him of the himself. So then he says, hold on a second, there's something strange going on. He shouts and he says, oh Muhammad, I come in peace. Let me come. Now check this out. Yeah, this is very bizarre. He goes to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, say anything. If someone's chasing me, I'll say, listen, leave me alone, go away. What do you want from me? That's what I'm going to say. The Prophet goes to him and says, Sadaqah, woe to you, a day is going to come where you're going to be wearing the bracelets of Kisra. Brother, it just came out of nowhere. Brother, it's just come out of nowhere. Someone chasing me and I go, yo, listen, a day is going to come, and let's say Trump doesn't exist in America. There's going to be great power, and you're going to wear Rolex of a man called Trump. It's like, bro, that's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. And one second. And you know what happens?
Yeah.
You know what happens? This is a prophecy
Yeah.
said to him randomly.
Yeah.
He could have said anything to him. Leave me alone, why chasing me? He goes, Sadaqah, a day is going to come where you're going to be wearing the bracelets of Kisra. Who's Kisra?
Yeah.
The ruler of Persia. Brother, you know what happens at the time of Umar ibn Khattab? Bro, you know what happens at the time of...
It's a situation of weakness.
It's weakness, bro. Why are you going to be thinking about a prophecy? What's the prophecy got to do with the situation? Do you know what happens at the time of Umar ibn Khattab? They take over Persia. Suraqah ibn Malik wears the bracelets of Kisra. Brother, how do you make that up?
The thing is, someone will say, "Oh, this was put into the hadith later on."
No.
Some of the prophecies of the
Brother, so sorry.
Some of them
So
talk about
sorry.
exactly what's happening today, bro. Exactly what's happening
There's
today.
prophecies for the time of the prophet, decades, centuries,
I was
until
raising
today,
one
right?
up.
Like there's ones that basically
Yes,
all
yes,
the time
yes.
until
No,
the
but
day
hey,
of it.
today, like for example, yeah, I've
Arab
mentioned
buildings are gonna
the
compete.
buildings and all that. Bro, there's things about even you can argue headphones, bro. Like music headphones.
Yeah.
There's a hadith that says yudrabu ala ru'usikum bil ma'azif. That there's gonna come a time where you'll be putting something in your head and you'll be listening to music.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Well, come on, man. There's one about cars, man. Do you know there's one about like Albani says there's no doubt it's
Really?
about cars. Yeah.
Really?
There's a hadith in the Sahih Muslim. Yeah. It says there'll come a time where you're going to be on a suruj. Suruj is basically essentially you're going to be on an instrument which you're going to be reclining on the leather chairs.
Yeah.
And you're going to drive on the ground, on the earth with it. You're going to be reclining on the leather chairs on it, and you're going to come outside of a mosque. Bro, this is in the hadith collection that was there for thousands of years.
What about the one where in the end times the women will dress in clothes that show them naked?
Bro, hold by naked.
Today I saw this
Bro,
rapper,
yeah.
she's wearing a see-through dress.
Bro, don't forget that, bro. You know some of them, there's a woman who walked on the street, they painted, bro, it's just paint, it's not clothes. It's paint and it looks like clothes. And how could you be clothed but naked? I don't understand.
Yes.
How could you be clothed but naked, Habibi?
They figured it out.
Isn't there one
Bro,
about the
tight clothes.
Dajjal? He'll be on like a
So the Dajjal
with eyes on the side. Do you know what I'm
the
talking about?
Dajjal is like the finality of history. Like
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
the last chapter. When that happens, it's over. It's game over.
Yeah.
But the ones which like the minor signs of the judgment, the prophecies, all those things. But there's so many things.
Yeah, they all come
Like
to
I
be-
say that, like you mentioned about women. Yeah. But there's a hadith that talks about women will join the men in workforce. There'll be an increase in women going into workforce.
Feminism.
Yeah. Bro, you
Yeah.
talk about feminism. Do you know? There's a hadith that says what? It says that some countries will be destroyed because they obey women.
in the US.
Bro, some countries will
France.
be destroyed because they obey women, bro. This is a hadith of the future. The obedience of women.
And so, there was so much stuff back then that probably sounded so insane that people were like, "Should we even write this down?" But they still did it.
Exactly. Well, let's talk about C-sections, bro. You know abortion and C-sections. Well, there's a hadith that says a woman will be so afraid to give birth that she's going to slit her thing open and get rid of the baby.
Wow.
Yeah, but not only that, the one who says that
That's talking about. There's no way.
a day will come that the woman will be giving birth to a master.
Yeah.
How you give birth to your master, bro? Have you seen those kids who slap their parents? They've given, that's their master, bro. They obey their child. Their child slaps them. I want this, I want that. Bro, the Prophet ﷺ made certain prophecies where it could jeopardize his prophethood because it's so bizarre. Like, for example, the Quypers in Rome, the Romans have been defeated.
That's the craziest one.
Bro, how is he making a statement that he doesn't need to make, bro? Why does he talk about politics?
Could you give a comparison for that one? Because that's in the Quran, right?
Quran,
yeah.
Yes.
So could you explain that one? Because that's just I
So
usually say it's
the fall
like
of the American Empire.
So
Yes.
what this is in chapter 30 verses 1 to 4, yeah? It says that the Romans have been defeated in a nearby land. And that they'll become victorious in 3 to 9 years. And that day the Muslims will rejoice. That's what the verses say, yeah? So when Abu Bakr heard this story, he went
Your legs.
and
Push
he
it
said,
down.
you know what? Because at the time gambling was haram. Because gambling became haram afterwards, yeah? Things will become haram in gradual order. It was incremental, it wasn't straight away.
yeah.
Abu Bakr said, I'm gonna bet such and such amount of camels on this. And they were like, how can you bet all your camels on this? But he was very, very confident about that, yeah? Exactly 8 years later, the Romans indeed did triumph over the Persians. And by the way, this is not just recorded in Islamic history. This is recorded even in non-Islamic history. For example, the Chronicles of Cuypers, which is a primary source Roman chronicler who mentioned exactly the timeline and stuff, and that the Romans had beaten the Persians after that time. So, like he said, bro, imagine if I say, like, okay, I don't know, like the Red Sox are going to beat this, whoever they're going to beat, and the opposite happens, or the Lakers are going to beat whoever they're going to beat, and the opposite happens. When you say that I'm getting a revelation from God, and then you make a bold claim, and then it comes out to be false, then you're discredited.
Yeah, the whole thing's about.
It's completely discredited. So the fact that you have these time-specific predictions, it shows immense like confidence in the Quran.
Yeah.